Wow, you guys can sit down. You don't even know if I'm good yet. Thank you. Man, there I was. I was back at the airport. Raise your hand if you like airports. Some crazy people out there. I didn't expect you to raise your hand. I'm back at the airport. I remember it was a Southwest flight, and I was traveling alone. And so they roll me up to the terminal, and I roll up in a wheelchair, and you know what that means? I get to skip the line. Focus on your strengths, women. And so, you know, I get up to the terminal, and they escort me down that long terminal. I go in, and I get greeted by the flight attendant. She says, "Honey, this is going to be a full flight." I said, "No worries, you know, I'm first in line." They bring me in, and I sit on the first row. It's a 3-seater row. So there's 2 seats next to me. I sit towards the window so 2 other people can have the best seats in the plane. And the plane starts filling in. The plane starts filling in, and people are looking at me and then looking away, or, "Hey, look at that guy." And with the 23 years of my life, I'm in tune, right? I see this stuff more than other people would see it. And so the plane starts filling in, and no one wants to sit next to me. Every other seat's getting taken except these 2 seats, and the plane starts filling in, and it brought me back to that moment. Moments in middle school, moments in high school, when I felt so absolutely disgusted with myself, so uncomfortable with my skin. I mean, have you ever felt like you were invisible? Have you ever felt like you weren't good enough, pretty enough? That you weren't comfortable in your skin? That's how I felt. And so it brought me back to these moments in middle school and high school when I went through the same things. There was a moment in 3rd grade where it was probably May. It was a hot summer day right before we got out of school, and we went out for recess. And I remember it was a hot day because when I jumped out of my wheelchair, my butt cheeks were on fire. So I jumped down off my wheelchair and I'm like, man, what game am I gonna play? And the kids were playing kickball. So I'm like, I'm gonna play kickball. And you're probably asking yourself, "Nick, how do you play kickball?" I'll tell you how I play kickball. So I'd have someone kick the ball and I'd run around the bases, right? And so as a 3rd grader, every game is like the World Series, so I'm pumped up. I'm ready to ride. They kick that big red ball, it goes flying, I start running. I hit first, I hit second. I'm doing pretty good, I hit 3rd. And I slide into home right before they can get me out. I remember I was so pumped up. And I'm in between the pitcher and the catcher. And I still remember this kid's name, Zach Campbell of Bayville, New Jersey. I won't put him on blast. Jersey. And I was standing right between the pitcher and the catcher, right after I just scored. And the catcher goes over me, he goes, "How you gonna let a cripple score on you?" I'm in 3rd grade. I don't even know what that means, but I know it has this negative connotation to it. And it was my first taste of that victim mentality. That first taste of the why me? I just beat you fair and square, I don't even have legs. Why? That victim mentality that we all get, and why me? Raise your hand if at least one time in your life you ask yourself, why me? Look around the room, keep them up. Take a sense of comfort in that. We all have that victim mentality of the why me? Why is this happening to me? And so this went on. That was my first taste of victim mentality, and then I got into middle school. And I think we can all agree that middle school and high school are probably the most judgmental times of our lives, right? If you agree, say yes. Yes. You all now self-reflecting at your middle school and high school, like, wow, right? Sorry. So when I got into middle school and high school, I also think we can all agree that boyfriends, girlfriends are a big thing, right? As humans, we crave energy. We crave that feminine energy, we crave that masculine energy, whatever it may be. And so for me, I craved that feminine energy. It was something that I didn't get. And so there was a moment when I was on the bus, and I had to ride the short bus because of my wheelchair. And I remember I was sitting in the seat, and there was a girl to the left of me. And she was going down the rows, just making fun of everyone. I'm like, oh man, she's gonna have a field day with me. And finally, she got up to me, and I looked over her, and I thought I was ready for what she was about to say. And she looked over at me, and she says, "Dude, I don't even have to start with you. You're already too messed up anyway." Why? Again, why me? And not only was that coming from another human being, but it was coming from a female. And as I described females, to be fully transparent, it's pretty cool that I'm speaking in front of you all now. Females used to be my biggest suicidal trigger. Because I never got that love. I craved that feminine energy. I never got that love. And as humans, we do this thing called stacking. And so you've noticed if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, if you don't catch your patterns, if you don't catch your thoughts, we tend to stay in that rut. Right? Your whole day just spirals down negative if you don't catch that first thought or that first incident that happened in the beginning of the day, if it's negative. And so the thoughts that I would stack after that girl told me that, I would think to myself, well, Nick, you're disgusting. Girls don't like you because you have no legs and one arm. You'll never have a girlfriend. How are you going to walk your girlfriend to her locker? And when you get there, how are you going to open up the locker? Is she going to want to hold your finger? Is that weird? Humans, we're very disempowering creatures if we don't catch our thoughts, and this is what we do. One negative thought can spiral us down into this deep, dark hole. We need to realize that our thoughts become experience. If my thought is negative, my next experience is going to be negative. If my thoughts are positive, my next experience is going to be positive. My next experience is going to be positive. So we need to be very conscious of the thoughts that are continuously going through my head. And so this was a big challenge for me. It's like, oh my God, I'm in this super dark place. I'm never gonna have a girlfriend. This weighs on me. And I started having these suicidal thoughts. I got so uncomfortable with my skin. I didn't want to look into the mirror. I didn't want to go outside. And I started having these suicidal thoughts that the only way out was for me to take my life. But the reason why I started this off with this is because the technique of reframing that I want to share with you, it's called reframing. And what I mean by that is we're all floating through plane energy right now. We're the captains of our boat, and we dictate whether something is negative or positive by the meaning we attach behind that event. Life is all about the meaning you attach behind the events. And so I tried to work through this girl thing. I'm like, man, I gotta reframe like my body. I gotta reframe relationships. I gotta do something to get me thinking more positive. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I was able to reframe it. And it's so dear to my heart, the power of reframing, because it literally changed my life. And not only one section of my life in middle school and high school, but later on I had to use this technique and it changed my life again. And so I'm like thinking, man, how do I reframe this girl thing? How do I reframe this relationship thing? And then I realized, if a girl doesn't want to further a connection with me, if a girl doesn't want to love on me, doesn't want to further a connection with me, dive deeper with me because of my physical differences, well, then this body, this disability, whatever you want to call it, is actually an authentic filter, and it's filtering out the type of women that I don't want in my life anyway. How empowering is that, right? It's all about the meaning I attach behind this. If every single time I was focused on the fact that I had no legs and one arm, I wouldn't be up here. Even when I'm back on stage, I'm not focused about, man, I wonder what they would think of me. I'm focused about how can I serve? How can I give as much impact to them as I can? Because when I'm up here, it's not about me, it's about you. And so where focus goes, energy flows. Where your focus is going, that's where all your energy is going to go. If you focus on all the negative in your life's going to be pretty negative. Like I could wake up every single day and be like, man, I don't have legs and my arm is missing. How empowering is that? It's not, right? So I choose to focus on the things that I can control, like my mind. And so the power of reframing not only helped me with women, but when I was sitting in that plane, and the plane started filling in, I started to cry. I'm looking out the window, and finally two gentlemen had to sit down. And I'm looking out the window trying to be a stud, but I'm crying. And I thought to myself, I said, Nick, what would you tell the kids you speak to? What would you tell the adults you speak to? Practice what you preach. What would you tell them? And I said, it's the power of reframing. I would tell them to reframe. And so I had to exercise that muscle again of reframing. I already had the tool, but the training never stops. We always have to condition our brain. And so that's when I thought, I have to reframe this. How am I going to reframe this? And then I realized, I said, I can cry all the way home. I could cry all the way home, Nick. You can let this affect your day, your week, your month, or you can celebrate the fact that you have the most legroom in this plane. Snap your fingers for me, I'll pretend. In the snap of a finger, I took a situation that was disempowering. I was crying, I was in this low negative state. And I put a positive attachment behind the event. You guys pay a lot of money for legroom, right? I'm like, look at all this legroom! It's the meaning you attach behind the event. And so one thing that you can immediately implement into your life right now is you can self-reflect on an event in your life in the past that you thought was negative, that you thought was a loss. It's a good thing I have one finger. If you pull one good piece of information, what? If you pull one good piece of information from any event in the past that you thought was a loss, that you thought was negative, if we pull one piece of good information, whether it was a different perspective, whether it was a different piece of knowledge, whether it was a different way to go about life, we take that loss, we extract the good, and we turn it into a win. There's a quote that I live by, it's by Nelson Mandela. He says, in life, I don't lose, I only win or learn. And in life, when you frame life like that, when you only win or learn, there's no losing. And you be more inclined to go into uncomfortable situations. You be more inclined to fall on your face because you know that's where the most personal growth comes from. So if that makes sense, say yes. Yes. If that makes sense, say yes. Yes. And so by that time, I'm still in middle school, and I realized, like, Nick, you don't like the way you're feeling. And the key about your physiology is self-awareness. Self-awareness, and that self-awareness is simply realizing the thoughts that are going through your head, your physiology, your energy, your posture, all these things go into play of how you feel. And so when I got into middle school, I realized I was in this low point. I was in that big victim mentality of, why me? Why do I have to be born like this? There are millions of people born each and every day. Why do I have to be born with no legs and one arm? Why do I have to go through these challenges? Why me? And I'm trying to find my way out. And I realized that the only person that was going to come save me was me. That the only person in your life that's going to make a drastic change, a real drastic change for the better, whether that's physically, whether that's emotionally, mentally, spiritually, the only person that's going to make a drastic change for you is who? Yeah, say that again. Me. You got to do it for you. You got to be your biggest superhero. Man, if I had a cape and I could fly around here and sprinkle some dust around here, I would do it. But that's what I realized that no one was coming to save me. So I asked myself, I said, Nick, what are you going to do to get yourself out of this hole? And some of you may be in a slump. You may be in a rut. You're wondering, man, I can't find my why. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the next step is. When the why is big enough, the how will reveal itself. When the why is big enough, the how will reveal itself. And so I want to ask you, what is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you here? Do you want to become a better mother? Do you want to become a better sister? Do you want to become a better CEO? Do you just want to become a boss lady? Who wants to become a boss lady? Well, what's your why? Because the why will always bring you through. It will always pull you through in those days where you don't want to get out of bed. Raise your hand if you have days where you don't want to get out of bed. Right? But if you woke up and reminded yourself of, man, I'm going to work for my kids. I'm going to work so I can provide for myself, and I can go on that trip to France, whatever it may be. What is the thing that pulls you? And so for me, my why was, I didn't want to feel like this anymore. I realized I only have one body. This is my temple, and I don't like the way I'm feeling. Nick, what are you going to do to get out of it? No one's coming to save you. And so I was looking for a way out. I was looking for an extracurricular activity. I was looking for a sport, something that would pull me out of this. And so when I got into high school, my older brother was a wrestler. All my best friends were wrestlers, and my one best friend, Dan, we're still best friends to this day. He wrestled his whole entire life. But his freshman year, he decided to be a bowler. We don't judge Dan. I don't ask him why. Do your thing, bro. I'm supportive. So freshman year, he goes, dude, you can bowl. He goes, all you got get to eat cheese fries when you come back? It's really easy. And I'm Italian, so anything that's got to do with food, I'm in. So I said, sure, I'll try bowling. And in your high school sports, you have your JV and your varsity? You know that? So your JV is not your starting lineup, and your varsity is your starting lineup. I remember our varsity bowling team were studs. I didn't even say anything yet. And our JV bowling team was undefeated. Yeah, until I joined the team. I joined my bowling team. I remember, they didn't even have jerseys for me. I had this old raggedy jersey. Not only do I have no legs and one arm, but I had this jersey that didn't make me stand out. I was like the black sheep of the bowling team. But I gave our JV bowling team our first loss. And I realized that bowling wasn't for me, that I needed something that was going to push me much more physically, much more mentally. And so sophomore year, Dan did the right thing and he went back to wrestling. And so, sorry Dan. And so my sophomore year, my buddies are like, dude, Nick, you always tell people to try new things, get out of your comfort zone. Why don't you try wrestling? And I was like, I can't, my arm. And a fun fact, not only humans, but the majority of entrepreneurs, the majority of us always start with can't. You can't do this because you don't have the knowledge. You can't do this because you're too young. You can't do this because you're too old. Raise your hand if at least one time in your life someone said, you can't do that. Look around the room. It's everyone. It's that outside noise, right? We all have, raise your hand if you have some haters too. Right? That means you're doing something right. And so I was like, dude, I can't. My arm. And so what I mean by that is this arm used to be 5 inches longer than it is now. And my bone was growing faster than my skin. So it was like your finger, but it was super sensitive. And the bottom line is, if I would have hit my arm hard enough, my bone would have came through my skin. And so I always used to tuck my arm. I didn't want to do physical activities with it. So I'm like, guys, this is only the one, I don't have many limbs left. I can't lose this one. I can't wrestle. But when someone tells you an idea and you're like, then you're in your car. You start marinating on that idea, right? You see, the one thing that my parents engraved in me from an early age was the phrase, it's not can't, but how. It's not can't, but how. And this isn't just mindset mumbo jumbo. We got to watch our words, right? So the word can't, is that empowering or disempowering? Is it empowering or disempowering? Very disempowering. And so the reason why we don't use can is because not only is it disempowering, but your mind won't stimulate any solutions. You're basically blocking your mind from stimulating solutions. So everything that I frame is how. Not only is it more empowering, but it helps my brain stimulate more solutions. It helps me figure out, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get over this goal? How am I going to become a wrestler? How am I going to become that mom? That CEO of my life, whatever it may be. How am I going to do it? And so for me, I'm figuring out, how can I become a wrestler? I know this is going to instill confidence in me. Because I was also a kid that thought you were either born with confidence or you didn't have it. But confidence is a skill. Confidence is a skill and something that we work on. And how we build confidence is we hold the relationship we have within ourselves. So what I mean by that is you set these little micro goals. This is how you build confidence. You set these little micro goals, whether it's waking up 30 minutes early of the day, or whether it's eating healthy 5 out of 7 days, or whatever it may be, whatever it is in your life, set these little micro goals, and when you hit them, you not only physically applaud yourself, but you mentally applaud yourself, and you kept your promise. Every time we commit to something and we don't follow through, we diminish our self-value and the way we look at ourselves. Because confidence is having a relationship that's so good within yourself that you don't care what anyone else thinks of you. You know who you are, you know your work ethic, and you know when you say something's going to get done, it gets done. And so I needed to keep these little promises with myself. And so I'm thinking of all the ways I could become a wrestler. And so I had it. I was like, man, I'm going to become a wrestler. So I came home one day. I waited for both my parents to come home. I sat them down. I said, Mom and Dad, I want to be a wrestler. My mom was like, oh no, Nick. Wrestling's the most physical sport. God forbid you hit your arm, your bone comes through your skin. What are you going to do then? My mom's freaking out. You know how moms are. Some of you are moms. The majority of you are moms. So my mom's like freaking out. And in under 10 seconds, I came up with the solution. I looked at my parents and I said, can we cut it off? She said, what? I said, yeah. Can we cut my arm off? I want to wrestle. And they said, first off, Nick, the right word is amputate. You're so aggressive with your words. I said, all right, I'll use your vocabulary. Can we amputate my arm? Can we do something about it? And they said, Nick, is this something that you really want to do? And I said, yeah. And the one thing that is pretty cool, I got to do a podcast with my parents a couple of weeks ago, and I was asking them about all these questions that I never got to ask them. And when I was born, the doctors wanted to do like some crazy things to me. They wanted to cut my finger off. They wanted to put bones in my quads and bone lengthening, so one day I could have prosthetics. So they wanted to actually split my finger in two, so I got 2 fingers. A lot of crazy things. And my parents always told them, it's not my decision. I'm not in the position to make a decision for my son's life. It's his life. And so they never wanted to make a crazy decision like that. So when I presented them this idea of me amputating my arm for the betterment of me, they were pumped up in a weird way. They're like, yeah, we can cut your arm off. Come on. But I was bringing them, this is a problem. I want to do something about it. So, they supported. They said, Nick, is this something that you really want to do? And I said, absolutely. I want to be a wrestler. And so my sophomore year, my parents scheduled the appointment for me to amputate my arm. But the one question I want us all to self-reflect on right now is, what are we willing to sacrifice for our dreams? What are we willing to sacrifice to be successful? And what are the things in our life that we need to cut off? Hopefully it's not a limb like me. I'm talking about limiting beliefs. What are the limiting beliefs that are holding you back? That you're not good enough, that you don't have the resources, that you're not pretty enough, you're not beautiful. What are the limiting beliefs in your life that you need to cut off when you walk outside this door? And also, what are the people we need to cut off? What are the people we need to cut off in our life? And sometimes it's the hardest things of the closest family and friends that are the people that are dragging us down. But I want you to self-reflect on what are the things when I walk outside of this door that I need to cut off, because that's the old me. Those beliefs are the old me. That's my old story. What is going to be the new empowering story you tell yourself? What are going to be the new empowering limiting beliefs that you tell yourself and that you reinforce in your head? And so, I think the funniest part about this is I didn't tell any of my friends and teachers that I was cutting my arm off. And so, right before surgery, I looked at the doctor and I said, Doc, if I can't beat someone over the head with this when I come out, we're going to have a problem. I need to be able to do some physical activities with this thing. And so the surgery went great. I had about 17 stitches in my arm, and I go back to school. I swear I was the happiest kid that just cut his arm off. I got like 17 stitches in my arm, some casts. I go back to school, like, hey guys! They're like, Nick, what'd you do? I cut my arm off!
That's great.
They're like, why? I said, I'm going to become a wrestler. And my friends supported, but some people laughed. They said, Nick, let's be real. How are you going to become an athlete, let alone a wrestler? You have no legs and one arm. I said, yeah, you're right, Captain Obvious. I do have no legs and one arm. And I'm not going to become a varsity wrestler. I'm not going to become a regular wrestler. I'm going to become a varsity wrestler. You're going to watch. You see, we all have the outside noise in our life, right? The haters, the naysayers, the people that tell us that our goals are too big, that we're not good enough, we're not pretty enough. There's so much outside noise. But we all have a choice. And that's the choice. We can let the outside noise affect us or drive us. Because like I said in the beginning, we're all floating through plain energy. I chose to use all that negativity as fuel. I mean, where would you be? Where would your parents be? Where would I be if every single time someone said, you can't do that, you were like, I'm right, you're right, and you bowed down? We wouldn't be here. And so I told these guys, I said, you're right, I'm going to become a wrestler. And so my junior year, I go into the wrestling room, and it's all my best friends, and I looked at them, I said, guys, you need to beat me up. You need to beat me up, pick me up, slam my face on the mat as many times as you need, because if you hold back on me, I'm not going to know how to become the best wrestler I could possibly be. If you hold back on me. And that was the same approach that my parents took. I usually don't talk about my parents anymore, That was down pretty mean. I usually don't talk about my parents in my seminars anymore, but the reason why I want to touch on this is because a lot of you are parents, right? Raise your hand if you're a parent. Wow. See? This is why we're touching this. And so just like my teammates, I didn't want them to coddle me. My parents never coddled me. From the earliest of ages, my parents sat me down and basically said, Nick, you're born with no legs and one arm. And mom and dad are not going to be here forever. So here's your clothes. Figure it out. Or they would put me in my high chair and they'd put Cheerios there with a spoon and they'd say, Nick, you know what time it is. Figure it out. And I finally learned that I'd flip the spoon off and lick my finger and eat the Cheerios that way. That it was much more efficient. Work smarter, not harder, Mom. But the reason why I shared this is because my parents didn't coddle me. The biggest advantage I had growing up was my parents helped me exercise the muscle of literally falling on my face and getting back up. So for the parents, the question I want to ask you is, are you doing too much for your kids? Are you doing too much for your kids? Are you coddling your kids? We actually handicap our kids when we coddle them. Full-bodied kids. When we do too much for them. So I wanted to share that with you because that was my parents' perspective, is they just let me fall down and get back up. They help me exercise that muscle of falling down and getting back up. And the reason why people quit when things are uncomfortable is because we just don't do it enough. We don't put ourselves in enough uncomfortable situations. And so, I told my buddies, I said, guys, please beat me up. Ask and you shall receive. I got my butt kicked. My junior year, I was about 1-20. And my only win was my coach putting me out for a varsity forfeit so I could get my varsity jacket. And I think we can also agree that things feel better when we earn them, right? And so I was like, thanks, dude, I don't want it. I didn't earn it. I want to earn this varsity jacket legit. I want to beat some kids up. And so my senior year, I was able to come out as the 106-pound varsity wrestler from my high school. And at this time, I was still trying to find my why. Like, why me? And actually, my senior year, I was 2-17. And that was 2 more real wins I got the previous year. You know what that's called? Winning. Progress. As long as we are moving forward, like I said, in any area of our life, as long as we are moving forward, we're winning. Because as humans, we love the feeling of progression.
Thank you.
We love the feeling of moving forward, and if we aren't growing,
We're dying.
we're dying. And so I came up, like this one finger always comes in handy, I came up with the one thing technique. If you find yourself in a slump, if you find yourself in a rut and you don't know what to do to get out of that hole, do one thing today that you know is going to evolve you into a better human being. One thing to start that progressive snowball, whether that, like I said, whether that's reading a book, whether that's going to Yoda, meditation, I said Yoda, yoga. I feel like Yoda. But do one thing today that you know is going to evolve you into a better human being, because I've realized over the past years, self-analyzing my years, my lowest days, my darkest days come from the days where I'm not doing enough, where I'm not moving the needle forward, whether that's professionally or personally. So I do one thing that I know is going to evolve me into a better human being, to get that progressive snowball started. And so I was 2-17, and one time I came off the mat after getting my butt kicked, and I remember I'm on the sideline, I'm trying to catch my breath, and this lady comes up to me crying. I'm like, oh God, what did I do wrong? And she's like, Nick, I want to thank you. I said, for what? I just got my butt kicked. And she said, no, Nick, it's much more than that. She said, my daughter's over there on the sideline. She never wanted to do a sport. She never wanted to do an extracurricular activity, but seeing you out there, you not only motivated her, inspired her, but you shifted her perspective. She wants to try all these sports. I want to thank you. And that was like my mind blowing. Because I was on the mat for myself. I was being selfish. I was trying to dig myself out of a hole. I wasn't trying to be motivational, inspirational Nick. I was trying to dig myself out of a hole. And I was helping a little girl passively. I thought to myself 2 things. Wow, imagine if I focused my energy on serving others. Because it not only made me feel good, it made me feel a little bit fulfilled. It not only made me feel good when I served other people, but I realized that all the things that I thought were disgusting about me, all the things that I thought were negative about me, that I always used to nitpick myself, turned out to be my biggest empowerments and my biggest influences. And that's probably the same thing for all of us. There's things in our life that we hate about ourselves, that you don't like, but those are the things that make you your sexiest you. Those are the things that make you your most transparent, authentic you. I have a quote on my bicep. It says, "You laugh at me because I'm different. I laugh at you because you're all the same." And listen, that's not just a Nick quote. I'm not like making fun of the rest of the world because they don't have legs and stuff. This is like an everyone quote. Because the sexiest thing you could do, the most attractive thing you could do is show up your authentic self. You show up authentic, you show up transparent, whether that's in your personal life or in your business life, you show up authentic. You show up transparent, and when you look whoever you're working with in the eyes, whether it's your clients, whether it's your family, you look at them and you're present with them and you lock eyes and you say, "How can I serve you?" That's when you'll get more abundance in your life. That's when you get more business in life, because two things. People just want to be treated like humans, and people just want to know you care. How many of you work with people on a day-to-day basis? Right? Everyone. And I think we can all agree that people's BS meters are very good nowadays, right? You know when people are BSing, right? And so when you show up, you stand out, because I hate to say it, but in the world we live in nowadays, there are not many authentic, transparent people. Right? Especially with Instagram, most of the stuff you see is fake. It's highlight reels. And so my advice to all of us is, like, even me, I remind myself everywhere I go, I want to show up authentic. I want to show up transparent, and I want to show up letting people know that I want to serve them in any way I can. And so when that mom told me that, I'm like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And at the same time, the app Vine came out. Raise your hand if you know what Vine is. So for those of you that don't know what Vine is, when I was a senior in high school in 2014, the app Vine was released. And it was an app where you could post 6-second videos. So you had to be as creative as you can in 6 seconds. And so while I'm a varsity wrestler, I realized that, helping people and making people laugh and motivating them, it made me feel good. Raise your hand if we're trying to live a fulfilled life. Right? We want to do things that fulfill us, make us feel good. So I'm like, wow, helping people out, making them laugh, it makes me feel good. I got this little tickly feeling inside. And so I'm like, man, I want to make some Vine videos. I want to shock the world. I want to do something that has never been done before. When people look at their phone, they go, "What is this? What is the thing that I can do? How can I harness my unicorn body and max it out to my full potential? What can I do?" And so I'm with my friends, and we're thinking of some ideas. And I said, "I got one." They said, "Nick, what is it?" I said, "Bear with me here." I said, "How many legless guys do you see crawling around Walmart pretending to be a zombie?" They said, "No one." I said, "Hey, that's a good idea." And so Nick put fake blood on his face. I put fake blood on my clothes. And I set out to my local Walmart in New Jersey. Which Nick's not allowed in that Walmart anymore. They kicked me out like 3 times. They're like, "Dude, you just caused too much trouble." I moved to Tampa. I go into this Walmart with fake blood on my face, fake blood on my clothes, and we're looking for a victim. We're going down the aisles. I see this guy, he's heavily invested in the paper towels. He's trying to figure out which one he brings home to the wife, right? Big decision. Doesn't want to mess it up. I look at my buddies and go, "Record this." He's like, "You're going to try it?" "Yeah, I'm going to try it." Just making sure you're ready. I came around the corner with as much confidence, as much speed as I can, going like this. He goes, "Oh!" and he throws the paper towels at my face. I'm like, "No, it's a prank! I didn't think it would work! I'm a human!" He's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm zombie pranking!" Whoa! Paper towels right in my face. Wasn't expecting that. I looked at my camera guy and I go, "Was that 6 seconds?" He goes, "Yes." I'm like, "Yes! This is just what the internet needs!" I said, "Pick me up and carry me out of here before I get kicked out." And so, God bless him. I apologize, I promise. But we were on our way home. we were on our way home, and I remember telling my family and friends, I said, guys, if this reaches 500 people, 500 kids or adults, and they can just look on their phone and go, wow, look at Nick living his best life. Maybe I could live my best life. Or maybe I could be a little bit comfortable with my body. Look at Nick, he's just like owning it. I wanted to not only make people laugh, but to inspire them to change. Right? And so I posted the video, and I had school the next morning. I'm still a senior in high school, and I go to sleep, and I wake up the next morning, and my video had over 80,000 likes and over 80,000 rebounds. It went internationally viral. I gained 50,000 followers in a day. I'm on the top of the popular page. I go back to school. People are like, dude, you're the zombie king. I'm like, what? What did I get myself into? I didn't expect all this. And there was news articles all over the world describing this man that was doing these zombie pranks. But the one news article that stood out to me the most was titled, New Jersey Teen, Born with Disability, Turned into a Positive. And that's, thank you. See, everything I do, there's a message behind what I do, right? Like I was telling everyone, I don't want to make people laugh. I want to instill change in them. I want them to change. And so even as I'm up here, I know that there are people in this crowd that don't feel comfortable in their skin, that don't feel like they're good enough, that don't feel like they're confident. And the one thing we need to realize is that we all get dealt a hand in life, right? We all have cards in life. You may think your cards is not so good. You may think your cards is mediocre. And you may think your deck of cards is the best deck of cards. But it is our duty to play that hand to the best of our ability, right? We have to work with we got to work with what we got. And so I wanted to show people, like, regardless of what hand life has dealt you with, you got to max it out. You got to play to your full potential. And so how I started that was with zombie pranks. And so I realized that I gained some following when I make myself look like a doofus online, and people like it. And so in under a year, I gained 1 million followers. It always comes in handy, I'm telling you. It ain't gonna get old. In under a year, I gained 1 million followers, and the reason why I share this is because when I started focusing not only on myself, but serving others, a lot of abundance came into my life. In my personal life, in my professional life, when I wanted to serve others, when I wanted to make people laugh, when I wanted to inspire them. I mean, look, girls were my biggest suicidal trigger. Now I'm in front of, how many girls are here? I'm in front of like 7,000 ladies. Let me hear you. But it was my focus, right? We were talking about where focus goes, energy flows. My focus was no longer on my body.